Hey there, this is Daniel from WP-103, and have you ever encountered a screen like this or like this? Then this video is for you. Today we're going to check out how to fix these types of errors, and also we look into why they happen in the first place. Let's go. The first error we want to check out is this one here. It's a 500 internal server error. This error happens usually when WordPress is not able to load for some reason. Well, this message here we get when WordPress can load, but there is some problem with a plugin or a theme. So let's start with this error here. As it says in the message, you should check your email, and that's usually a good place to start. So in our email, we can then see that there was some kind of a problem on our website. And we can also see what the problem was. The current plugin that caused that issue was Insanity. We also see the version here, and also in the error details, we can basically see what happened before this error occurred. And usually the line on the top is the one that gives us the information where exactly in the code this error happened. Also in this email, you have a recovery link. So let's click that one. We log in. We check out the plugins, and we can see here that this plugin that caused this error is now paused. So it will not be executed, but it is still activated. So if you leave the recovery mode, then the error comes back again unless you fix it first. And here we see again where exactly this error occurred, here in line 686. So here you have to either deactivate the plugin or you update the plugin if there is an update available. So as we can see, there is an update available, and if we check the 2.9.2 details in the changelog tab, we can now see there is like fixed fatal error when default constant not defined. That sounds pretty much like our error. So in this case, we can just update the plugin and then go out of the recovery mode, and the problem is fixed. But what happens if this recovery mode doesn't work and you cannot just update the plugin? Well, then we have to do some manual work. First of all, we need to find out what actually causes this problem. If we didn't get the email, then we cannot really tell what the problem was. So we need to read the logs first to see what the actual problem is. You will find it somewhere in the hoster's backend. It is usually called logs or error logs, and just look for the last few lines and look for something that says like fatal error. And here we get basically the same error message that says undefined constant. And after that, we also see which file caused this issue. So we now know that the plugin is Insanity. So how can we deactivate the plugin without the WordPress backend? For that, you have to use either the hoster's file managing system or an FTP connection. After you logged in, you have then this file structure. We want to go to WP content, plugins, and now we can just rename the plugin that caused the error. After you rename the folder, you just go back to your site and it should load like normal. Very important now, before we rename the folder back to the original again, we need to visit the plugins page at least once, and this will deactivate the plugin itself. If we don't do that, then the plugin is still in the activation loop. It doesn't get loaded because it cannot find the files, but as soon as we rename it, it will just show up again. So this makes sure that the plugin gets deactivated, and this happens when we click on the plugins screen. Now we can rename the plugin again, reload the page, and now we can see the plugin is again here, and it is also deactivated. Now we can update it, for example, and this would fix this error in this example. Before we go into details for this particular error, I want to show you how to fix this 500 internal server error. And also here, the error log is your best friend. Just check it for a fatal error, and we can see here now we have again an undefined constant, I am an error, and it points to the file that causes this error. In this example, it is in WP config. If we look at this file, we can see, yeah, there is this error. So let's just delete that. And the site works normal again. Of course, usually it isn't that easy, but even if you have a more complicated solution, just grab your log file, put it in an LMM and let it analyze, and then it can usually tell you what the problem is. Sometimes it can happen that you cannot find out from the logs which plugin causes the issue, or you deactivate the plugin that was mentioned in the logs, but it still doesn't work. Then the nuclear option for that would be just to rename the whole plugins folder. And then you do the same thing. You go back to the dashboard into the plugin page, and then it deactivates all the plugins. You rename the folder again, and then you can basically activate each plugin one by one to see which plugin actually causes the error. But it's not always that simple. So let's look into a concrete example of a plugin conflict. So these types of conflicts are quite common. And like as you can see here, Imagify works great. If we deactivate it and we activate Insanity, it also works great. But as soon as we activate both together, then we get this error message. So let's have a look under the hood what actually happens. According to the logs, this causes the issue, and it says that this constant here is not defined yet. But it gets defined here in the plugin as soon as the plugin is run. So what is the problem? It gets defined and it should basically work. So the constant gets defined here when the plugin gets initiated. This function here gets executed by a hook. And if we look at that, we have the hook big image size threshold, which executes then this function here. Very quick. Hooks in WordPress allow you as a developer to run certain action or filter certain content at a certain point of the program. For example, here when the admin menu gets loaded, then this executes a function that adds another menu. Let's have a look why this actually happens. So Insanity and Imagify are both loaded, and Insanity registers two hooks. Well, more than that, but these two are relevant for us. There is the init hook and there is the add filter big image size threshold. Imagify also registers a hook, but it registers the plugins loaded hook. This gets executed when, well, all plugins are loaded. After the plugin load phase, the hook plugins loaded gets executed, and it executes only the Imagify because there was no hook defined in the Insanity. So it runs that and it applies this filter here, big image size threshold. A plugin can either register a hook, so it gets added to the queue of this specific hook, or it can also execute a hook, and all the plugins that registered a hook already also get then executed. And that's exactly what happens here. It applies this filter here, and this filter then calls the function of Insanity, and it causes this error because this constant here gets defined in the init stage, which happens after the plugin loaded stage. And that's why this problem happened in the first place. In this case, it's pretty easy. We can just update the plugin and then it works again. So let's update the plugin. We're using the WP-CLI, and as a little trick here, if you add skip plugins at the end, then it doesn't load the plugin, therefore it doesn't cause the error. So you can still activate and deactivate plugins even when you have an error on the site. So we updated that. The site runs again, and if we check out Insanity after the update, we can see that it got here a new if statement, and it says if it's not defined, then it just initiates it before it actually calls the filter. That fixes that problem. And that's it for that video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I catch you in the next one.